Travolting presents The Fraser's Edge. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering Dudley Do-Right. With special guest, Sam Kelly. In a studio in central Chicago, in the state of Illinois, in the United States of America, three men gather to discuss the motion picture Dudley Do-Right and ask themselves the question, is this all it was cracked up to be? Why are we here? What is this movie? What am I doing with my life? Now we enter in and discover these three intrepid explorers as they delve into Dudley Do-Right. Wrong fucking movie, jackass.
Dudley the Do-Right. Watch out for that horse.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
But it is this movie. This movie is just George of the Jungle, but worse.
Yes. Yes.
The posters literally say, from the creator of George of the Jungle.
Which is a very sketchy thing to be advertising.
Yeah.
Because it is based on the same cartoon. Is it based on a cartoon by the same guy? It is not from the creator of George of the Jungle. What's his name? Who directed George of the Jungle? Had no involvement in this motion picture.
No.
Who is the director of George of the Jungle? I can't remember.
I definitely had got by that.
Yeah.
I saw it and I was like, oh, well, that's fun.
Because George of the Jungle was of mostly entertaining.
Sam Wiseman.
Sam Wiseman, more like Sam Dumbman. Am I
I
right?
nailed it.
But no. So yes, this motion picture, Dudley Do-Right, is based on the cartoon Dudley Do-Right. Itself a spinoff of Rocky and Bullwinkle, a show that we have actually covered on this show before.
Yes.
So this is our second time covering a spinoff of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Because any longtime listener will remember that Stuart and I covered the great motion picture Boris and Natasha.
Oh, you didn't do it with the accent.
Boris and Natasha.
There it is. There it is.
A movie about the funniest two Russian spies infiltrating the United States of America, as in various costumes.
Funniest being a very lucrative term.
Including the eternal favorite, Mr. and Mrs. O'Beath. Sam. So in this movie, Boris and Natasha, they dress up in like really big fat suits.
And they're Irish.
As one does.
With Scottish, like, they're wearing kilts and whatnot. And they're just like lumbering around, and they go under the name Mr. and Mrs. O'Beath.
That's so stupid.
It took him a half second to click the.
But doesn't it make sense?
I was like, "What are you fucking saying to me?"
But doesn't it make sense that then this movie is what happens?
Yes.
Like you think about Boris and Natasha, and then you think about this movie, and it's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. This is Dudley Do-Right was 99.
99.
Same year as The Mummy.
Yes, same year as The Mummy. Thank you for listening to that episode last week.
We hope you enjoyed that 3-hour-long excursion.
Yes.
A movie I still have never seen.
You've never seen The Mummy?
It's true.
Oh, Sam.
Oh, Sam.
It's a good movie.
Do you see what shirt he's wearing right now?
I've only seen, I think Brendan Fraser's movies is the accolades. I've seen The Whale.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I liked it too.
I've seen Dudley Do-Right, and I've seen Crash, and I think those are the only Brendan Fraser movies I've ever seen.
That's a kind of rough lineup.
Very, very broad spectrum
Yes.
of Brendan Fraser.
Oh
You haven't
my
even seen George of the Jungle.
Oh, I have seen George of the Jungle.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry. Yes. Actually, I saw George of the Jungle after I saw Dudley Do-Right.
But have you seen Younger and Younger?
I have not seen that.
No one's seen Younger
No
and
one's seen it.
Younger.
Or Passion of Darkly Noon.
No, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
This is actually a pretty good movie.
But no. So
This is 7 years after Boris and Natasha,
yeah,
which came out in
oddly
1992.
kind of has some connections with it.
2 years after George of the Jungle.
Yes.
This is a George of the Jungle, Boris and Natasha brainchild.
Yes. But the thing is that's funny is that this movie does have the same narrator as Boris and Natasha.
Yes.
Corey Burton, who's just a prolific voice actor, so it makes sense he could. But it is the exact same voice he's doing in Boris and Natasha. And Alex Rocco is in this movie, who plays, he's Dear Leader in No, he's the CIA agent in Boris and Natasha.
Yeah.
The head of the CIA. So there's like this kind of weird J. Ward cinematic universe sprawling right now. And I would like to delve into that a little bit before we get into this movie specifically.
I wish they got Keith Scott to narrate this. Same one as George of the Jungle.
They should have gotten the "In a World" guy. Just like every time he's like, Dudley Do-Right.
Yeah.
But no. So at this point in the 90s, there's kind of this weird resurgence or, I'm trying to think of the right boom in live action adaptations of classic cartoon shows.
That sounds really familiar.
Because there's Boris and Natasha in 91. Then there's the Flintstones movie.
Yeah.
With John Goodman.
Oh, yeah.
There's this movie, Dudley Do-Right. There's the live-action Boris, or Rocky and Bullwinkle.
With Robert De Niro.
Yes. So, Stuart, I think we do have to cover that movie, so our next show should be called You Talk About Me. Talking About Me?
That was not a good one.
What? I think it's great. You Talking About Me?
Was that... So, folks, I showed up to Jeff Sweeney's apartment to record this podcast, and he's so giddy and so happy. Because he's like, I got a good podcast name.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop
Talking About Me? You Talking About Me? Get out. Are you talking to me? Be good.
Am I missing it, Sam?
Be a good De Niro
Am I
show.
missing something? Am I missing the joke?
I
want to laugh. I want to laugh.
You get
But
the joke, right? It's the taxi driver. You
Yeah.
talking to me?
Oh, really? Really?
I feel like the only reason you wouldn't be laughing right now is if you just didn't get it.
No,
I just think Fraser's just way more clever.
yeah. Fraser just and all the names we thought of for all the different seasons. Like
You talking about me?
Talking about what?
You talking about me?
Not like Robert.
The poster, like the little
Robert
square
De Podcast.
the square image that you folks are looking at in your phones right now. It would be that, and it'd be Robert De Niro like this. And it would say, "You talking about me?" with a question mark.
My favorite is
Because
that
he's like,
word,
"You talking
audio
about
only
me? What's
podcast.
this?" Sir?
I like that he posed.
Yeah,
without
he posed
describing
without
it,
describing what it
after
is.
telling people they would be looking at the square.
Yeah. We do a video for this podcast, but we won't tell you where it is.
You gotta find it's on Crackle exclusively.
Oh my God.
You guys actually have to sign up for Quibi, which even though it doesn't exist, we still upload to.
Guys, Alfred Molina's in this movie.
He's great in this movie.
I actually read something that Sam Raimi saw this movie and cried at Alfred Molina's performance, and that's what made him be Doc Ock. in
You're
Spider-Man
making this
2.
shit up.
Well, I'm the one who wrote it down. But
Sam Raimi saw it and he's like, "That's my auto."
That's my auto.
he was snubbed in '99 for an Academy Award. That performance, maintaining that high pitch of a voice for an hour and 20 minutes. What man could do that?
I think Molina is maybe the only one who comes out of this movie with his integrity intact.
I would credit it as the launching point for his career.
It is oddly like his first big thing.
I didn't know if that was true. I was just saying that.
Like because he's in. I think his feature debut is Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he's the Sapito in the opening scene.
Oh,
Who gets stabbed by the thing, and Indiana Jones is like, Sapito. But then he does, just a quick little Molina corner. He does a lot of stuff through the 90s, but this is like around this time he does Boogie Nights, The Man Who Knew Too Little, and Dudley Do-Right, which are three it's Alfred Molina. You recognize this guy now. And from that point on, he's in Magnolia, Chocolat, and then eventually Spider-Man 2, which is the thing that really puts him in the public consciousness in a larger sense.
He was in Da Vinci Code, right?
He is in he's in Angels and Demons, I think. The second one? Wait, no, he is in
Da Vinci Code.
He's in Da
because
Vinci
he's
Code.
Paul Bettany's dad in Da Vinci Code.
You know what is a bad movie?
the Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci
Yeah.
Code.
I feel
Interestingly enough, the book is also terrible.
yeah, Sam, I the second Stuart mentioned Da Vinci Code, I knew you'd be seething.
Absolute mistake.
Dan
What do you think about the sequels?
I haven't read them or seen them. The first one was bad enough.
Do you know Ewan McGregor is a priest and he launches an antimatter nuclear warhead up in the atmosphere and then parachutes back down to the Vatican and then they elect him Pope? That's a real thing that happens. And then they uncover that Ewan McGregor was a conspirator in the murder of the
Stuart,
former Pope.
I remember the name you came up with. It was View and Ewan.
Yeah!
That's good. That's good.
Let's go. Ewan. That's...
But no, that does happen. He launches a nuke
Before
into
we
orbit,
started recording the podcast.
jumps out of the helicopter as the bomb explodes behind him.
An antimatter bomb.
Parachutes back into the Vatican, and they're like, he's the new Pope.
That's almost exactly the plot of the Avengers, though.
What if at the end of the Avengers, it was like, it's just cut to the Vatican, and you're like, well, why are we seeing this? And then like you see the white smoke coming out, and then Iron Man just
But
he's got the little Pope hat.
But it's not the Pope hat. It's an Iron Man version of the Pope hat.
It's like where that nanotechnology forms the Pope hat.
But then the fact that they find out that he was the main murderer of the former Pope, right?
Yeah.
And then like when they find out about it, he then runs into like
The catacombs and kills himself.
the catacombs, dumps oil on himself, and lights him on fire. And that's how the movie ends.
Somehow Tom Hanks is involved in all this.
I don't know how.
You know, in the immortal words of Tim Roth, sometimes you just do things for the paycheck. And that's all I can imagine is what happened.
With angels and demons.
If someone said, hey,
Viewing.
Tom Hanks, do you want a metric fuck ton of money?
We didn't give audience context to the View and Ewan thing. So, like when you 3 weeks ago, you listened to Gods and Monsters. No, 2 weeks ago, you listened to Gods and Monsters.
Yes.
3? 2?
Yes.
When we stopped recording that one, we were talking about other like podcast name ideas and stuff. And I came up with Viewin' Ewan for Ewan McGregor. I'm still very proud of that.
You should be.
It's really good.
But then we showed up today, and for some reason, like time had passed since then, I could not remember it.
Yeah.
So that's context for why Jeff remembered the
Yes.
Viewin' Ewan.
View and Ewan.
That's got to be like, I mean, we already know what season 3 is going to be.
Yeah. But we're on, like, we should probably loop back. Because we
To what? Dudley Do-Right?
No, we're on a really shaky trajectory right now where we could just end up talking about Inferno for 2 hours, and I don't want to get
I
there.
have not seen Inferno.
I've never seen Inferno, but I've seen the trailer so much.
Yeah.
Because it was in every movie I saw in 2019. And every trailer is just, it's Tom Hanks. He's like, we have to get to Venice. And then it cuts to a helicopter shot of Venice. I remember that.
Is that the third in the trilogy?
That is the third in the trilogy.
I didn't even know they had made a third one.
Here's the thing. There's like 5 Robert Langdon books. The first 2 were Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. And they made those 2 movies. And then they skipped the 3rd book.
Yeah.
And made a 3rd movie off the 4th book.
What's the blue one?
Is it The Lost Symbol?
Yeah, that one. So Jeremy bought me that for Christmas one year because I wouldn't shut up about how much I hated Dan Brown.
I mean, Dan Brown just like, did you know Da Vinci Code's one of the top like 5 best-selling books in literary history?
Well,
It's outrageous.
It's grocery store fiction. So
Yeah.
it's like you're walking down the aisle, you end up in the book aisle, and
an
you
airport
see,
thing.
you see it, and you're like, well, I guess I'll just buy that.
Okay, so Sam, you got Origin.
Origin,
Origin's
that's
the one you have.
yeah.
It's-
I donated that to Goodwill like a week later. I couldn't allow it in my house.
Does any Dan Brown book end with an actual like mythical thing happening in the book, or
Oh yeah.
really?
Wait.
Because the first 2 books are like, I don't know, like you think Angels and Demons, like there's gonna be Angels and Demons in this movie, and it's not. It's about like the political structure of the Vatican and the
Which
whole
sounds like it should rule.
context
Like
of the
that sounds
anti-
like it should rule. Like
If you guys make a podcast called Brownout and it covers all of Dan Brown's books, I will read every single one of them to be a guest star on every episode,
It's
just
a
so I can talk
5-episode
about them.
miniseries. That could be an interlude.
No, Dan Brown has done. We could do a Dan Brown adaptation show because there's only been 3 movies.
I would rather read the books.
Okay, the books. There are 5, 6, 7, 8 books.
All the Robert Langdon.
All right, we're gonna run down the Dan Brown bibliography. His first book, Digital Fortress,
What?
in 1998. In the year 2000, he publishes the first Robert Langdon, Angels and Demons, which
Angels and Demons was first.
yes, the book was first, the movie was second.
Interesting.
Then in 2001, he does a book called Deception Point. And he then realizes, I'm only going to do Robert Langdon for the rest of my career. 2003, Da Vinci Code. 2009, The Lost Symbol. 2013, Inferno. 2017, Origin. Since then, he has only done an illustrated children's book called Wild Symphony in 2020.
illustrated children's book reimagining Inferno and Angels and Demons. It's like, hey kids, God isn't real.
Oh shit. Well, isn't the twist at the end of the Da Vinci Code very explicitly that they do find the Holy Grail?
Yeah, it's a person.
It's like buried underneath the Louvre.
Oh. I thought
Do you remember this?
I thought the
I would
reveal in
be-
that was that it was a person.
Oh yeah, it's like Mary Magdalene.
His daughter, because Jesus fucked Mary Magdalene.
And she's like buried underneath the Louvre.
yeah,
in Paris.
yeah, that's what it is.
Because there's a pretty good Hans Zimmer track from that scene
Yeah,
that I kind of
it
is kind of a
actually is
bop.
kind of dope.
I don't think I finished either the book or the movie. I only have memories of Tom Hanks walking down hallways and holding that little sphere, that little tube in his hand.
Oh yeah, the puzzle box thing.
Yeah, that had a funny name.
Turned out it was
the Da Vinci
Apple.
thing. Yeah.
It's funny that Ron Howard made those movies.
Ron Howard is a guy who just does things in Hollywood, and oftentimes they're very good. And then when they're not, you just kind of forget that it was him.
Mm-hmm. Like, did you guys know that he had a movie that came out this year, starring Colin Farrell, Viggo Mortensen, and Joel Edgerton? And people say it was pretty good.
Wait, what movie?
13 Lives. It's about like the Thai cave rescue.
That came out this year.
Oh, yeah.
It came out this year.
Oh, 22.
People said pretty
2022.
good movie, or last year, 2020.
I did know about that, but I had no
People are like
interest in
pretty good
watching
movie,
that.
and like no one knows about it.
I watched the documentary.
Yeah,
I think.
But Ron Howard does have blood on his hands because Hillbilly Elegy,
Oh,
2020,
he did that?
an adaptation of a book by J.D. Vance, who used the success of the movie to jumpstart his Senate campaign and is now a far-right senator from Ohio.
Oh my god.
I mean, it was impressive how rapidly he rose to, I don't want to say stardom, but like no one knew who the fuck J.D. Vance was.
Yeah.
And then he wrote this mediocre book that was turned
Yeah.
into a mediocre movie. And all of a sudden everyone was like, "Oh, this guy loves Donald Trump. We should elect him."
And they did it. He's the senator now.
That would be like if who's the guy who writes Dilbert? Scott Adams.
Scott Adams.
Scott Adams had a cartoon adaptation of his show again, and then used that to launch his budding Senate career.
Scott Dilbert.
we live in a world where politicians use their movies.
It is funny that Scott Adams owns Dilbert, and he just like makes far-right Dilbert cartoons now. Like, you open up your grandparents' newspaper you're visiting, and like you see like Dilbert, and it's like Dilbert like opens the mail, and there's just like he's like, "Oh, these taxes or whatever," and then you go and like Scott Adams, well, but it's Dilbert, and he's like writing QAnon slogans on the wall or something.
He's at the Capitol marching.
he's like, it's a peaceful
January
protest, guys.
6th
It's a
insurrection.
peaceful protest. Just a little Dilbert, his little hair.
He's like got his feet kicked up on Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Oh my goodness.
Guys, I think we should do the right thing here.
To do the right thing.
I'm not okay with what just happened. I'll see you guys later. This is too much.
Alright. So
I think we got to do the right thing.
yes. Okay.
This conversation has been a dud.
Dudley, more like. All right. So
Jeff, keep up.
we're gonna kinda go back. So I talked about how there's like the run of
That was 20
cartoon
minutes.
adaptations. Gracefully, society realized bad idea. At this point, I think the only one of these movies that like between Boris and Natasha, Rocky Bullwinkle, Flintstones, we'll lump the Super Mario Bros. Movie in this, even though it's a video game. But it's like in that thing of like, oh, let's just take these old things and turn them into movies.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is in that gang too. It was around the 90s, right?
I don't think I'm gonna count Teenage Mutant Ninja. Actually, no, I would. Space Jam also in this.
Yeah.
Space Jam's in this. We are gonna eventually cover on the show, I think, maybe the one good version of this thing, and it's Looney Tunes Back in Action.
God, that was 1990. Was Teenage
Yes.
Mutant- Holy
Like
fuck.
that 10-year period, thankfully society realized, okay, this was a mistake. Let's not do this again. But yeah, that's where this movie fits in. This movie's directed by Hugh Wilson, who has previously directed the motion picture Blast from the Past, that came out the same year as this movie.
Wrote Blast from the Past. I think
He directed it.
Did he direct it?
He did.
Okay, I looked that up too, and I thought he
Was the writer of wait, no, I'm getting that wrong. He directed Blast from the Past and Dudley Do-Right.
Oh yeah.
He goes really in on Fraser, does 2 movies with him back to back, come out the same year. I can only presume they filmed them basically back to back.
99.
In 99.
Man.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Big year for
Louise.
Fraser and Hugh Wilson adaptations. And then this movie is such a colossal disaster. Hugh Wilson only directs one more movie called Mickey, which is a low-budget drama that he co-writes with John Grisham. Stars Harry Connick Jr. It makes $200,000 at the box office on a $6 million budget.
Amazing.
And then Hugh Wilson never works again and then dies of lung cancer.
Oh my God. He is rightfully punished.
He is punished for his transgression.
What a legacy to leave behind.
But you can essentially say this movie is the end of his career.
Yeah.
He makes a movie called The First Wives Club that is a pretty moderate success. And that's what gives him, the kind of clout, the blank check, or whatever you want to call it, to make Blast from the Past and Dudley Do-Right.
The blank check to make Dudley Do-Right.
Yeah. And then it's fucking over for this guy. He never works again. Kind of sad, but at the same time, whatever.
But it makes it even more weird then that it's all capitalized on the creator of George of the Jungle.
Yes.
And it's like...
Well, they're not going to be like, from the director of Blast from the Past and The First Wives Club, Dudley Do-Right. And, I can see why this movie gets made and gets funded at the budget that it does, which is $22 million. It's that, George of the Jungle, big success. They're like, okay, what can we do? We can, what else we got? What else we got? It's like, all right, Dudley Do-Right, that's a character. Brendan, you were great in George. You want to do another one? He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. You can work with Hugh Wilson again. You liked him in Blast in the Past. Like, yeah, sure. And that's what he does. And that's how this movie gets made. Because, Brendan's in a hot streak right now.
Yeah.
George of the Jungle worked out really well for him. It jump-started his, big A-list star career.
And in the same year, he's going to do the Mummy.
Yeah. And so clearly, he liked working with Hugh Wilson. Blast in the Past was a good experience. George of the Jungle did a lot for him. He's like, yeah, I'll do Dudley Do-Right. Let's figure it out. I'm Canadian, and my great-grandfather was a Mountie. This is a true story. Brendan Fraser's great-grandfather's a Mountie. He's like, yeah, this will be exciting. We can do this. And I can only presume that's why Fraser gets involved in this movie. And to this day, he has said he regrets this deeply.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the movie, we can explain why.
Well, that's the thing is, when we talk about this movie, how the fuck are we going to talk about this movie?
Yeah, this movie basically doesn't have a plot until the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. At first, if you want to look at it under a real deep microscope, it's a critique of capitalism.
At first.
And then you think at some point the people are going to rise up and seize the means of production back from Snidely Whiplash. But instead, it's just the cops who show up at the end and return everything to order. Well, and then the movie just kind of ends.
Yeah.
Without any resolution and with a really, really bad but almost Fury-like tank battle scene that occurs in the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, this movie kind of kicks it to 11 at the end.
And it's also you mentioned themes of capitalism. It strangely also then ventures into imperialism.
Yeah.
Somehow.
The movie pivots so quickly. It definitely predicted the rise of Blackwater and the use of private military when invading other countries. And then it kicks us back to the early 1400s when Columbus first sailed over and stole the land from indigenous people who I believe back then were also all played by white people.
They're a Brooklyn tribe.
Yeah, they do say they're a Brooklyn tribe in this movie.
Okay, I missed that.
One of them is Jewish.
I was so confused. Yeah, the chief, whose name is Chief.
Yeah.
With his big glasses. And then at one point, they name only one other indigenous character.
I know
his name is
Standing Room Only. And actually, what? If I'm being quite honest, they could have cut every scene that had to do with Native American dances, and the movie would have made just as little sense as it does.
It would have been the same
with those
thing.
Scenes.
The Kumquat tribe.
It seemed like they needed a way to fluff out another 20 minutes of movie so it could be considered for its Academy Award or whatever.
It is an hour and 20. It is crisp.
It's not long.
No, it's not long. And that is with a 10-minute cartoon intro built in. We haven't even talked about that.
I kind of think this movie's going to be a lot more fun to talk about than it was to watch.
Yeah, that's probably
I'm going to come
true.
out at the end of this episode and be like, was that good? And then watching it and be like, nope.
I had to like force myself to leave my phone on the couch and watch the screen so I could understand what was going on and take notes, of which I did not take very many because there's nothing to write about.
I wanna paint the picture for how we started this movie. So like me and my girlfriend were watching both of these movies together, the Mummy and
DDR.
No, not. You're not. Accurate.
I will ratify DDR.
Yeah.
Ratified DDR.
And so we watch the Mummy first, chronology, and then we go to Dudley Do-Right. And like I look up like brief like research into it, and I see like, oh, like creator George of the Jungle, like okay, so Jay Ward, oh, like Rocky and Bullwinkle, oh, okay, so Boris and Natasha, kind of like that. So I start it, and it has like the cartoon intro. It starts with like a Jay Ward cartoon. Now
The Fox, the Locks, and the Box.
yes, and I'm watching this, and my girlfriend's also watching this, and we had both never seen this movie before, and she's like, "Did you hit the right movie?" And I'm like, "I think so." So I pause it, hit menu, and go back to my Amazon Prime, and sure enough, yeah, like Brendan Fraser's on the posters. I'm like, I'm watching the right movie. So I'm like, maybe they're doing like a cartoon intro. So I hit play. The cartoon goes for like 10 minutes, and it has nothing to do with the movie. It is a standalone Jay Ward cartoon for why?
Well, so here's the thing. Is that a lot of like Jay Ward cartoons would play before movies in the 60s when they were popular and whatnot. Like Disney cartoon, every Disney movie would have a cartoon before it, like a Mickey Mouse short or whatever. And the Pixar movies always had a Pixar short before them. And that's what this is. It's trying to get back to that. This movie actually got a lot of credit because this is the first time in like 20 years that Jay Ward's studio had pumped out a new short. The problem is that, you go to the theater and you see the cartoon pre-reel, like it's before the movie.
Right.
When the movie then comes to streaming, rental, DVD, whatever, it's a bonus feature or like a separate thing.
Right. When you watch Bug's Life, the two old dudes playing chess isn't baked into Bug's Life.
Yes.
No, you have to go through the DVD menu and you
Yeah.
find it and
Right.
you get to have fun.
Yeah, Jerry's Game. It's good.
Yeah, it's great.
And when you
short.
see it in the theater, it's fun to have like the pre-reeled cartoon.
Yeah.
But you've already established that with 25 minutes of previews as well.
Yes.
So there's already been a theme of short content
Yes.
going into the...
And then this is like the appetizer before you finally get to the main course.
Right.
This
But I didn't
movie.
order an appetizer.
What?
I said, but I didn't order an
You're
appetizer.
damn getting one.
Yeah, that's the thing. You are fucking getting an appetizer with this.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is baked into the reel. Like,
Yeah.
I rented this on Prime, and like it's just like I'm watching the cartoon, and there's no like warning. There's the cartoon's part of this. I'm like, all right. And I was very behind watching this. I actually skipped the cartoon. I just simply did not have the time.
Well, like I kept thinking, like, when is this cartoon gonna turn into like a George of the Jungle-esque cartoon transition, like intro?
No, it is a separate cartoon.
It just ends, and then the
Universal logo
logo
comes back up.
comes back, and you see Brendan Fraser, like, oh, okay, I guess we're in it.
And that was part of the confusion for me because I, having not seen this movie in like probably 25 years. No, not quite that long, but I was probably 6, so a little more than 20 years. And so I remember Rocky and Bullwinkle being in this movie, which is just not true. So I see the cartoon and I'm like, oh, great, this is the part that bridges the animated universe into
Right.
like the actual universe, except that bridge never comes.
No.
The cartoon just ends, and once again you're told this is a universal picture. No apology for making me head watch that or making me think what I thought. And then all of a sudden we don't see a cartoon again for the next hour and 10 minutes of movie.
No, and
It's all live action.
the movie
all
is an
live
hour
action.
and 20 minutes total
Yes.
from Amazon Prime. So presumably you watch this 10-minute cartoon. I didn't actually time the cartoon. I don't know if it's 10 minutes.
I think
Give
it's
or
about
take.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
And then the credits are about 5.
So this movie is about an hour
5 minutes.
5 minutes long. Barely a feature. Barely a feature.
It's kind of a blessing in disguise.
Oh, I mean, I could not have handled if there was 30 minutes more on that movie to really flesh out the quote unquote plot. I don't know if I could have made it to the end.
It was a saving grace of this movie that we didn't have to endure for too long.
Yes. What if it was like Avatar: The Way of Water length, and there's like a 20-minute sequence in the middle of Dudley just riding his horse?
I would have put in my wrench and be like, fuck it, I'm done.
Funny you should say compare it to Avatar 2, The Way of Water, because there was some very familiar imagery as Snidely Whiplash and his motley crew were barreling towards the island, the reef rather, in their boats. And all I could think was how James Cameron must have seen this movie and thought, I could animate that better in 23 years. And he did it.
He fucking did it.
And he did.
This movie does end with like a full military sequence. Like there's a
Machine guns.
An unprecedented military sequence. There's only been one gun in this movie the entire time. Well, I mean, I guess there's like his crew of bank robbers with their little revolvers, but a gun only goes off a couple times when he's shooting the gold into the rocks all around in order to start the new gold rush.
A scheme that we must talk about.
And then he convinces all the people come to, well, I guess seize the means of
Whiplash
production
City,
from him.
yeah.
They come to Whiplash City and he talks them down, and then we never see that army. And then all of a sudden they're fully kitted like Navy SEALs in boats showing up like D-Day on the beach while a bunch of Native Americans stand shooting fireworks back at them.
And rocks.
And rocks.
And there's a great line in this movie where it's like, man, like they have all these rocks and all we have are these machine guns. It
What
tanks.
is this fucking movie?
It tanks. The only thing that was missing was an airstrike.
It's true. The only thing that was missing was an airstrike. Yeah.
Jets come in and bomb the shit out of them. I might have liked this
On
movie.
Dudley.
I might have liked this movie. Oh my god. How does this movie begin?
It starts with 3 kids playing
Yes.
with a horse, a small horse, a pony, as you would.
And it's Nell,
Snidely Whiplash, and Dudley Do-Right. Dudley, like, once he's like, my destiny is to be mounted one day. And I'm like, whoa, you're 5, buddy. Let's not talk about that.
fuck.
And I'm like, all right. I'm
11:38.
like, all right, buddy. Let's kind of roll it back a little bit here.
Be a Mountie.
He says mounted. He wants to be a mounted. And then Nell is like, oh, how can you have those dreams? And like the dynamic is immediately set up that he and Snidely Whiplash, which is just a name, are fighting for the affections of this girl, Nell.
The kid playing Snidely Whiplash, a better actor, I would say.
Yeah, the kid playing Snidely Whiplash, kind of good, because he's like, I'm going to be the bad guy. I want to be the villain, because bad guys have all the fun, get to do the cool things.
Bad
Not
guys
wrong.
get to do this, and he kisses the girl
And
version
then
of
shoves
Nell.
an ice cream in Dudley's face.
Yeah.
The thing that's funny, when I was a kid, I always played the villains. Whenever I had games on like the playground with my friends, I always played the bad guy because I like playing the bad guy.
You were always the person who was it on freeze tag.
Like if we had like a narrative game,
Yeah.
you know, like it's like, you know, we're playing Pokemon or whatever in the schoolyard. Like I would be the bad guy.
You were Gary.
We had
Team
our
Rocket.
own story. I was Team Aqua. I think it was like whatever.
Oh, that's right.
Team Aqua.
You're an early 2000s kid.
I'm not whatever. Yeah.
Heavily
Back in my
influenced
day.
Yeah, but Team
by
Aqua.
the themes of Dudley Do-Right as a child.
Yeah. But I was like the Snidely Whiplash style kid.
You've seen this movie before?
I've not.
No.
So I'm the only one. So I was talking to Stuart on the way in, and I had said I've seen Dudley Do-Right like maybe 10 times.
So sorry.
Well, when you're a kid, and
How's your life now?
I mean, look where I am. I'm here talking about it. I mean, when you're a little kid, the whole stepping on the plank gag that hits him in the back of the head over and over again, hilarious. He can't sit in a chair.
He can't
hilarious.
sit. He's cursed to never sit in a chair.
Never sit in a chair. His horse, hilarious. But then you watch it as a 29-year-old and you realize, A, how stupid it is, and B, how accurate its depiction of the hiring of police officers is, both in the United States and America. And then he just never recovers.
Yeah.
He just never wisens up.
Nope.
And contrary to how it works in the real world, Dudley Do-Right gets fired for incompetence from his job, only to be brought back later.
For doing the right thing?
I don't know.
But that's the thing, is the movie says he's not.
And all briefly, he is Dudley Do Wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is like the plot. That is ostensibly the plot of this movie. Is Dudley becoming Dudley Do Wrong.
And it's what he does wrong that ends up getting him his job back.
This movie has fucked up ideas about the police.
Or about really just morals in general.
It's like sometimes you gotta be a bad guy to be a good guy.
Also, like, I'm really interested in how, like, the schematics of the Canadian Mounties work. Is it really just one Mountie per town?
I would doubt that. Well, actually,
but they get a whole fort to themselves, and a Tommy gun and a horse.
The fort was a nice addition.
Yeah,
I'm looking it up. I'm looking up Canadian Mounted.
I mean, I suppose when you're out in rural America, there's one sheriff for a county.
I guess so. Yeah, he is kind of like this, like the one sheriff in a way. But after the little kid scene, we go into this montage of like little Dudley Do-Right growing up and putting on the uniform and wanting to reach the destiny of being a Mountie. And he does. And then we come back and we see Brendan Fraser as a Mountie. Jeff.
Yes.
I begrudgingly feel like we have to go there already.
You want to talk about it?
I think we got to talk about it. Cue the hair ranking music. Welcome to the hair ranking. So here's the problem, gentlemen, friends, comrades, brothers. I'm looking at any photo I can of Dudley Do-Right. He has his fucking hat on the entire time. I can't really see his hair.
He has it off when he becomes Dudley Do Wrong, I believe.
Yeah? I'm trying to look at like a photo of him without the hat on, and I'm having a rough time finding one. Okay. No, I found it. I think I found something. It's just regular hair.
Nothing to write home about.
Nothing to really go crazy about. That's kind of what it looks like.
Isn't that what he always looks like?
Well, I mean, he's got some movies where it's got better hair, a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. It's like just pretty casual hair. So I'm gonna go to the ranking. Let me Stuart's almighty hair ranking list. Let's put it above. Let's put it above Passion of Darkly Noon, below Glory Days. It's gonna be a new number 13.
New number 13.
There's some of him as a Mountie with his hair down.
Yeah, it's just kind of whatever.
Kind of like a mop was placed on his head.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not that great.
A little moppy.
Oh, I forgot about this. When he's riding the horse backwards as a child, hilarious.
Your neighbor's having a fun time.
Yeah. Okay, so I looked it up. So Canada has a strange law enforcement structure. So it doesn't have a like dedicated like criminal activity investigation like
an FBI.
Yeah, it doesn't have like an FBI, and it doesn't necessarily have like police laws. Like it's up to provinces to employ and like figure out their own police services. The federal government does employ the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which are the Mounties. It's a federal like run system that with different provinces and cities can like ask the federal government to establish mounted police like presence in their area.
Gotcha.
But it's not like in America where every single like city has like the police force that reports to like the state police and who reports to the federal government bureau or something. It's a weird system. But yes, that's how Dudley gets his job. That's where he's working.
Glad we figured that out.
Yes.
Very glad.
Because I feel like everyone needed to know that.
Yeah. So we get to Brendan Fraser as a Mountie.
Yes.
And
with his horse.
Yeah.
Who
with
farts
his
a lot.
Horse who farts a lot. And yeah.
I raspberries.
I don't know how you guys will speak on this, but like I can only describe the next few minutes of like Dudley being Dudley, just being goofy and hitting board planks and falling off chairs and pratfalls and fart jokes and all that good stuff. Meanwhile, Alfred Molina, which the reveal of Alfred Molina as Snidely Whiplash, I was like, okay, is this movie about to do something? And then I am quickly punished for that. But I mean, I think he does what he can.
No, he's good in this movie.
He's actually pretty good. He does all right. And so,
because he commits to a thing.
Well, and he
does the thing.
Like Snidely commits his plan right away at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
First thing he does, he robs a bank with his dudes, and then
Wait, good bit here. goes in the bank and he has a gun at the bank teller.
Yeah.
And they're like, how much do you want? He's like, let me get the rest of my guys in first before you give us anything. And like it cuts to this wide angle shot outside, and there's like just like this
50 guys.
It looks like a Costco on a Sunday
yeah, like
morning.
this funnel
Everyone is
of bank robbers all trying to pile into the bank, but they won't all fit 'cause there's so many of them.
Yeah.
and there's got as many guns as possible are pointed out and above
Yeah.
at the tellers.
Yes. This teller would explode if they were all fire once.
But they rob the bank and get
Yeah.
all the money and gold.
Yes.
And then they go back to their hideout, and somehow Snidely Whiplash,
Has absconded with it all.
tricks them and like throws in the suggestions. Like, I think Snidely Whiplash, him being himself but tricking them, is in fucking, I don't know, where does he sends them to like all over the world. To go look for him.
He sends them. He says that Snidely. He heard that Snidely went to the Sudan.
Yeah.
So all like 200 of these bank robbers run out to get plane tickets to the Sudan.
To like get
Only about half of them will return.
Yeah. And then Snidely enacts his plan where he
Yeah.
takes the gold and like breaks it up and puts it in the river.
Well,
You forget that he also coerces a mortgage broker into giving all of the mortgages to him.
yes.
Right.
So he can force people off their land
Yeah.
instantaneously.
Without any repercussions.
It's established that it says like Snidely had a date with a mortgage broker and a really big train, and it cuts to a train coming around the corner. On the front of the train it says really big train.
Yeah.
And he's like Snidely, who like has like the curly mustache and the top hat, has the mortgage broker tied up on the tracks.
And you run into your classic trolley problem.
Yes.
Do we let the man die or do we steal all of the mortgages from him?
Right. a classic problem that we all debate with to this day.
And so he gets all the mortgages, and he now owns Semi Happy Valley. That's the name of the town.
Yes.
Semi Happy Valley. He renames it Whiplash City.
A better name.
And like I tell you guys, I was getting some whiplash when I saw what they were doing to this town.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. I liked it.
Thank you.
That's-
You liked it?
Yeah, that was good. Hey, you're doing good.
Thank you.
Good job.
I do want to quickly shout out.
I feel like you need a bag of treats here.
I do want to quickly
Every
shout
time
out.
he makes a joke like this.
The number like Molina's like number one henchman, played by Jack Keller.
Homer.
Yeah, Homer.
Oh, Homer.
He's one of my favorite like bit character actors in movies. He's the dude's landlord in The Big Lebowski, who's like, tomorrow's already the 10th, dude, and then is performing artistic dance later in the movie. He's also in Men in Black 2 as the pizza shop owner who gets split in half at the beginning.
Oh wow.
He's just like one of those like great character actors who I always get excited when he pops up in a thing.
Yeah.
Because he always comes in, he does his little, New York thing, and then he's usually cast out of the movie.
Yeah. Gets a paycheck.
Yeah, he's good. He's good in this movie. I liked him.
Yeah.
I liked him and Molina, and I was very questionable about the rest of it.
Yeah. But yeah, he ties the broker up on a train track. It's like, you're going to give me all the mortgages and all the property and deeds. And
Yes.
And then he, I don't know if he kills the guy or not, but then he, runs all the people away from his house. You're not our banker. It's like, well, this piece of paper says I am now.
Yes.
It's a big fancy document with the word mortgage just printed out right across
Yeah.
the top in big block letters so we can read it really quick.
I mean, the props department just went to, Canada's state house and got a
Yeah,
real mortgage
had a good
thing.
time.
Yeah. Is this when then he puts shit in the river and starts shooting it?
So then he's in the cave and he's shooting his little gold bullets into the wall and he gets stopped by...
Well, he accidentally causes a cave-in,
That's what it is.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
and he's crushed by a large block.
And this will be
Whiplash.
the first time that he suffers life-threatening injuries, but somehow walks away completely unharmed.
Snyder like, clambers out of the rock pile.
Mummy style.
Yeah, because Dudley hears this and he's like, the cave's collapsed again. And I'm like, well, maybe you should board up the cave, buddy.
It's like all those kids played in the cave again.
Yeah.
Like, have kids died at this cave?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And so he pulls the rocks out and pulls Snidely. He's like, Snidely, Whiplash.
It's like, oh yeah, Dudley
And we have our
Do-Right.
classic hero-villain first encounter.
It's like, what are you doing out here? And it's like, I'm hunting vampires. That's actually what he
Yeah,
said.
he does say
And
that.
Dudley Do-Right, being an idiot, cursed to never sit down, believes him.
Yeah. And goes back to his fort.
Terrified, hiding away in his little fort, of which he is the only man inside,
Yes.
hiding from the vampires.
With a fiery steak and a garlic pizza.
Yes.
That's what he has to ward them off.
I think this is when Nell shows up.
Oh, we also learn, though, in that interaction with Snidely Whiplash that, again, because Dudley Do-Right's an idiot, he's told that gold bullets will also kill vampires.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is why he's shooting gold everywhere.
Yes. So Snidely's plan, which we see enacted before Nell shows up, like we see Snidely takes over the town while Dudley is hiding from the vampires.
That's a real sentence that we have to say.
So Snidely's plan is that he now owns all the mortgages in the town. And all the gold he stole that he could probably sell for like millions of dollars.
Yeah, more money than he could.
He's not going to do that. He's going to melt it down, break it up into small chunks, load it into a shotgun shell, and then go around and shoot it into the riverbed and caves. And then he's going to find a homeless prospector played by Eric Idle and tell them, dig here for gold, yeah, see?
And he's like, this is technically my property, but I'm going to let you have the gold. You're going to be famous. You're going to go on
Regis and Kelly
Network
Ray.
TV is what he says.
Yes.
And then we discover in the next scene that it's Regis and Kelly.
And so he quickly, we cut to Eric Idle on Regis and Kelly. Regis is there.
All cleaned up in a nice suit.
Regis is like, all right, you're here. It's great. Tremendous. You found the gold.
And he's like, oh, yeah.
I did find the gold, didn't I?
find the gold. Yeah, it's quite amazing.
And so this is when the dastardly nature of the plan is unveiled. And we discover that his plan is put gold in to cause a gold rush.
Yeah.
So people come to Whiplash Valley and spend their money on all of his businesses that he now owns mortgages for.
Yeah.
That is the scheme.
And the scene at
He could have just sold the gold and bought the town anyway.
It gets worse, though.
the scene at the Canadian border where you
Yes.
have just like the one border patrol guy.
Good scene.
And you just see a flood of cars just rushing
Hundreds
through.
of cars appear at the
Immigration,
border.
not a problem.
They just start they blasting.
to see your passport.
passports, and they just blast through.
They do not give a fuck.
Yes.
And they do not present their passports.
No, they don't.
The plan succeeds, and the town becomes overrun by tourists and gold diggers and prospectors.
And there's a funny joke where it's like, man, like we ran out all the Canadians, but we have a bunch of Americans here. It's like, well, that's because Canadians think about the things they do before doing it. And I'm like, it's
Got us.
That's
Classic Canadian propaganda.
Classic.
Not true at all.
This is when Nell comes in.
Yes. Played by
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Does she come in before or after the villagers come to the fort and demand that Dudley get their
think
property
after.
back?
After.
And then Dudley says, well, as a police officer, I can't help you get your property back. And so he doesn't.
Because he's like, oh, do you guys know about the vampires? He's like, the what?
Yeah, all these villagers are like desperate.
Yeah.
And Dudley's just like, fuck 'em.
Fuck 'em. I'm hiding for the vampires.
But when his attempted love interest shows up, that's when he's like, ready to.
Right. It's when Sarah Jessica Parker, who
is present.
is
She
there.
came to set. She got a meal probably.
Is delivering lines in front of the camera,
Yeah.
occasionally to Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. That's pretty much all I could say about it. I don't know what she's doing in this movie. Is she Canadian?
No, I think she's just there because she's attractive. And
Yeah.
Friends is on. Wait, no, she's not. Sex in the City is on at this point. And they're like, yeah, Sarah Jessica Parker.
This will bring a name.
Yeah.
This will bring people to the theaters.
Yeah, to see Dudley Do-Right with Sarah Jessica Parker. But no, they have a whole interaction where he's like, are you a vampire? And she has to like... Oh, he gets... The way he finds out that she is actually Nell is he sings a song. And she's like, when I'm calling you...
Oh, yeah.
Will you call me too? Which is some old Rodgers and Hammerstein song that I...
And very briefly, I thought I had made a mistake because I thought this was going to be a musical. Because this is only like 15 minutes into the actual movie,
Yes.
maybe 20.
Yeah.
Which is, as we discussed, a third of the way
Yeah.
through the movie.
I don't know what happens after this, guys.
They go to the Brooklyn tribe, the Kumquat Nation,
Oh my god.
where all the Native Americans are played by extremely New York people. It's like Alex Rocco is the chief, and he's like, "Hey, what's the big idea? You know, I'm Mo Green. You know, I built Las Vegas." And they're like, "All right, Mo, all right."
This is a very cringy scene.
Yeah, it was. I was like, "Oh my god."
And they're like a musical theater production.
Yeah, there's like a musical, like one of those like shows that you go to see when you're like on a road trip with your parents when you're really young, and then you realize how problematic the whole thing was many years later in life, and you're overcome by guilt.
Yeah. It's like that, but in a movie.
Yes, but in a movie.
A movie that we all chose to watch in 2023.
Yes.
Yep.
That we decided we would spend money on. In fact.
Yeah.
We give this thing between the three of us. That's $12.
Maybe it broke even.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe it did. Maybe it pulled a brain candy.
That's where we get the classic, oh, you can talk to my other tribal man, standing room only.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's good. It's great.
Jeff is weeping.
It's great. But Nell is not convinced to stay with Dudley, and she goes off with Snidely Whiplash
Bitch.
because she likes bad boys.
She does. She's a classic Sandy.
Yeah.
In a
Meanwhile,
Grease world.
at the same time, Snidely's henchmen come back, Homer and the like.
And they say, like, Snidely, you tricked us.
Yeah, and he's like, "We went to Sudan. You weren't there." And he's like, Where's the rest of you?" And he's like, he says, "Heathrow, Roman Airport, Mozambique." Mozambique.
And then
Because they ran out of money to pay for flights, and they just started leaving guys.
he convinces them.
How?
He starts giving them jobs. He's like, "You went to school once.
Yeah,
You're superintendent."
He gives them high-ranking positions in the town that are meaningless.
Yeah.
Because no one lives there anymore. It is purely a destination like Epcot.
Yes.
To just buy shit related to gold.
Who here feels like they could be a brain surgeon? And they'll raise their hands.
Yeah, one guy's like, "Yeah, whatever." He's like, "You're the brain surgeon."
Yeah.
And he makes Homer the slaw dog,
Oh, yeah.
the manager of the slaw dog stand.
Oh, man.
Yeah. He does get a promotion later, and then it's revoked.
Yeah.
But
Back to the slaw dog for you.
Molina, good. Molina, good.
He understood the
He's at
assignment.
least committing to something.
Yeah.
Fraser, let's be honest, he's not doing much.
I don't know what Fraser's doing in this
He's
movie.
he's not he's very openly not happy with this movie or this performance,
Yeah.
and you see why. Like what's he doing? He's saying lines, and he's doing his like chipper optimism thing,
Yeah.
which he's good at. But in this, it's just like he'll just walk in and be like, "Wow, that's great, tremendous."
And then he gets hit in the head with a
Yeah, and he
plank.
gets hit in with a plywood, and like he tumbles down a well, and boom,
I think it's
a
at
giant
this point
bump
when
appears.
like Dudley's life is going into shambles because Snidely like sneaks into the fort and like scares Horse away. So he loses Horse for like we never see Horse again until the very end of the film. Like that is it for Horse.
Yeah, Horse just doesn't appear again.
They said, "Fuck these animals. We ain't shooting with them anymore." Then he gets a visit by Nell's father, who's like the Canadian Mountie general or whatever the fuck.
Played by Robert Prosky.
Yeah.
Who is like,
You're not worthy of your name. You're not worthy of your power. You're not worthy.
who's like,
It's like I cast you out.
who's like a really respectable like American character actor, who usually kind of talks like this. And for some reason, they have him doing this like, "All right, cheerio, good chap."
And then like after he casts Brendan Fraser into the Bifrost away from the Canadian wilderness, he then holds the hat and says, "If he whoever should be worthy shall wear this hat," and then throws the hat
Yeah.
into the Bifrost.
we did miss two things that occur. One of
I don't
them,
think we did.
something I'm very mad about. One of them, a scene that occurs. when Nell appears, she's describing he's like, I haven't seen you in 3 years. She's like, yeah, since I did that, I went and I got a business degree at Yale and a political science degree at Harvard. And then I was a lawyer or something. And then she's like, I was the U.S. ambassador to Guam. And then I'm like, bro, Guam doesn't have a fucking ambassador. It's part of the U.S.
It's literally a territory.
That would be like me saying, yeah, the ambassador to Pennsylvania. No.
I do consider you to be the ambassador to Pennsylvania, though.
Thank you. It's a great honor. I want to thank Joe Biden for instilling me with this job. It is true, folks. I have been recently appointed the ambassador to Pennsylvania.
How are our relations with the Pennsylvanians right now, Jeff?
There's a reason I'm in Illinois right now. It's because things are shaky. So I'm here to shore up some relationships when the state war breaks out.
Right. Whose side are you on?
Guam's.
Guam. Yes.
Under the lead of Sarah Jessica Parker.
What if a war broke out in the U.S.?
Careful.
And Sarah Jessica Parker was your general.
She was the Joan of Arc of the Lower East Side of New York City.
Things just get so bad in this country. There's no entertainment. Power is scarce. You can't watch anything. You can't do anything. Celebrities get drafted into the service.
The only movies made are Jon Voight movies, and
yes, for some reason Jon Voight's still making movies.
Who's the guy who they have the high school named after him in Family Guy?
Oh.
He's the really conservative actor, James Woods.
No.
James Woods, Jon Voight Productions.
Do not speak that name on this podcast. Oh, we go back with James Woods.
What's the best James Woods thing we've covered?
Welcome Back, Cotter. Because it was before he was a bleeding conservative.
Crazy. Sir, I don't know if I talked about this in the Welcome Back, Cotter episode. James Woods, he extreme conservative, very far right. Very entertaining in a lot of movies. I like his performances. He's good in Casino, yada, yada, yada. Contact, all that. Big video game guy. And because he voiced Hades in Hercules.
Oh, did he?
Yes. He's Hades in and he's great. He's so funny as Hades. But because of that, he has continued to play Hades in every Disney video game, including Kingdom Hearts. And I don't know if you've ever played Kingdom Hearts.
I have not.
Me neither.
It's the most bugged nuts game. It's Final Fantasy anime characters meet Mickey Mouse and they're fighting demons from hell or some crazy shit like that. But if you ever watch a clip of it, it'll be James Woods as Hades just being there hey, what's the big idea? I'm here dealing with the Keyblade War. I'm talking with Sora and Xeon and all. You're what is going on?
Imagine if in God of War,
yeah,
whoever is the voice actor for Kratos at this time goes up against Hades,
and
voiced by James Woods. And he's like,
it's great, it's tremendous, whatever.
I've come for my revenge. And then James Woods hey, Kratos, I think we can work this out, man.
The juxtaposition of Christopher Judge versus James Woods.
Oh my goodness.
It's you will see the fury of my axe. And he's hey, I don't really think that's necessary. Lightning bolt.
See the fury, it's really cold. It's really dark in here. Can we pay some electricity, turn the lights up? I don't even fucking know.
This movie's...
Where were we?
Anyway, so Sarah Jessica Parker is the ambassador to United States territory.
Yes, which means she's clearly lying. Never idiot.
He's so mad.
The other thing we missed is that Dudley's house is blown up.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Homer comes and lays a bunch of TNT.
He brings a 6-pack
of dynamite.
So
he came to the party with a 6-pack of dynamite.
The pregnant pause between 6-pack and dynamite is really what sets up the scene. Yeah. And we have the situational irony of knowing that Dudley Do-Right is terrified of vampires. And so he sets up a cardboard cutout of a Mountie and sticks it in the window so the vampires think someone is there all the time.
Yeah.
In doing so, tricking Homer into thinking Dudley is inside this house. Anyways.
Yeah. And then he blows up, and that's when Dudley comes back, sees the blown up fort, and then Nell's dad shows up and strips his titles and banishes him into the wilderness.
Yes, because his house is blown up. Homer survives, though he does get cooked. You know what would rule? If there was actually a vampiric invasion of some sort,
or even just one.
Just
if one just happened to be there.
No, but the thing is, like, if vampires tried to take over the world, and, like, you're, like, well-stocked from the grocery store, like, you're set for a little bit. And you can just, like, open your door and just sit there and watch them stand outside your door.
Because you have to invite
Yeah,
them
you got to
in.
invite them in.
Can't come in.
Well, that's the problem.
And they're going to be like, hey, can I come in? And you're like,
That's my issue with like the concept of vampire epidemics and pandemics of like, guys, just stay home.
yeah, don't invite them inside.
Don't invite them inside. Like, what's so hard about that? And go out during the day.
Well, you run
I
out of
don't want to like
groceries.
be that dude, but we literally just had a pandemic and people refused to stay inside. So I want to say, as an example, not the greatest one.
God damn. Wow. It would literally be like flesh-eating zombies out there and be like, stay inside, blah, blah, blah.
But you can't tell me what to do.
You know that those aren't zombies, right? Zombies aren't real. I've never seen one, therefore.
It's like, that's just a guy. And it's like, no, it's a vampire. It's like, I don't know.
It's like the news interval. It's like the news.
Tucker's
It's like,
telling me something else.
it's like the zombie pandemic is very prominent in like rural counties because it's all the conservative people who won't stay the fuck inside. So it's just, we lost Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee. Those are all the states to go.
Yeah.
You painted that as a negative, but
It might be a win.
if we lost
know what,
Ohio,
Nate?
Indiana already is a wasteland
You know
full
what?
of zombies.
Bring the fucking vampires on.
Oh my god. It's amazing.
You guys have seen What We Do in the Shadows? The
No.
movie?
I've seen a couple of episodes of the show.
The best bit in the movie is that they're trying to go out clubbing, but they can't go into the clubs unless the bouncer invites them inside.
Oh my god.
So they're like they're like a group of them, and they're stuck at the front door, but they're trying to get the bouncer to say, "Please come inside," instead of just like gesturing them in. They're like, "Oh, but can we come inside?" The guy's like, "Yeah, I don't see why not." They're like, "Can you invite us inside?"
Oh my god.
It's a great scene.
It's good shit. Good
Okay.
shit.
So Nell is with Snidely.
I don't want to talk about this movie anymore.
Dudley decides he's gonna become Dudley Do-Wrong. No, Eric Idle is the one who inspires
yeah, he's
him.
convinced to become Dudley Do-Right.
Yeah, because he's like, well, if doing the right thing is not working for you, sometimes to do the right thing, you need to do the wrong thing.
Because
Impeccable
Snidely
logic.
Whiplash has bolstered the economy
Yeah.
of Whiplash City and has given a lot of people jobs and money. And so therefore you could say that Snidely is the good guy. And so to fight the good guy, you have to become the bad guy.
Like, you know
That's
that part
so
in Harry
deep.
Potter where he's like, sometimes the right thing done for the wrong reasons can still be, or it's the wrong thing done for the right reasons can be the right thing.
Something about that.
Some line like
yeah.
that in Harry fucking Potter or something like that. That punk bitch.
Isn't it right before he's convinced to be Dudley Do-Wrong? He's told that the way to defeat Snidely, like the reasoning he should be Dudley Do-Wrong,
You just
is because
think about the words that are just you're just saying. like
right
before he's convinced to be Dudley Do-Wrong, he has to talk to Snidely.
Snidely Whiplash, and he's convinced to steal. Like they see the gold coming in,
Yeah.
and they're like, "You have to steal that," and that's when he gets convinced to become wrong, and they have their weird dojo session.
Yeah.
But then in that same scene, we see these men carting in bags of gold bullion,
Yeah.
like pounds and pounds of gold.
Yeah.
I looked it up just a minute ago. The price per ounce of gold in 1999 was $311 per
Holy
ounce,
fuck.
which adjusted for inflation is like $1,700 right now.
Yeah. And so
There's no way it's economically feasible.
yeah, for Snidely to be bringing in money, buying gold, and then melting it down and shooting it into the earth.
And he has to pay these henchmen. And I mean, it's just like the transportation of gold to Whiplash City.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
I mean,
It's not working.
I presume the hustle is people find the gold, fence it,
Sell
get the
it
money, and
back.
spend the money back into the town. But even at this point,
It's supply and demand, guys.
this economic system is unstable.
It's trickle down
It's like,
economics,
it's like
folks.
people are buying shovels and T-shirts at like the local store. All of these
Yeah.
American immigrants are just buying like gold-themed merch.
Can you
with
say that
their
phrase one more
money.
time? American immigrants buy.
The migrant caravan of Americans into Canada. They show up. They breach the unprotected border. And then they proceed as American immigrants to just purchase gold-themed merchandise.
Where was that scene in the movie, like in Lord of the Rings Return of the King, when Aragorn shows up to Minas Tirith with his ghost army who washes Minas Tirith clean of the orcs? Where was that scene when Brendan Fraser shows up with his army of Mounties and they pretty much work like ice and they just wash over Whiplash City and deport all the Americans back?
Get them out.
It's just like, and it's like, release us. And they're like, you have purged Whiplash
fulfilled
City.
your oath.
It's like, go now in peace. And then they turn around on their horses so they're facing the opposite way, and then the horses ride away. That's how they leave.
But the Mounties, like, they show up and do nothing.
No.
Because, well, we can get to that later, actually.
There's one scene left to talk about, I think, before we just get to the finale. And there's actually a dance sequence
Oh, God.
that I actually kind of like.
Is it with Fraser as the eagle?
No.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
No, it is not that. It's the scene before that.
Shut down!
Where it's the scene where Snidely has like a reception.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
And he's dancing with Nell, and there's like a back and forth dance fight
Yeah.
between the two of them dancing with Nell.
Right.
And there's like some old pop band performing. Kind of like that scene. The dance choreography was fun.
It did feel much like it was the inspiration for the opening scene of Babylon.
Yes, of course. I mean, everybody who made a movie in 2022 actually had to watch Dudley Do-Right. It was passed in the Inflation Reduction Act that all movies made in 2022 had to in some way be inspired by Dudley Do-Right.
But wait,
Fucking
you could
Democrats.
also argue, and I do believe this to be true, and this is pre-Inflation Reduction Act, that Justin Lin got his idea for the dirt bike sequence in Star Trek Beyond from the dirt bike sequence that we would see Dudley Do-Right pull
Yes, of
off
course.
when, after only 20 minutes before seeing hundreds of pounds of gold bullion being brought in, he steals 2 paltry bags of gold, roughly the size of a small bag of gold, and then just rides away with that. And that's the gold caper.
Oh, my God.
Feels like $3,000 maybe.
Like at most.
Yeah. Oh my God, this fucking.
But the dance sequence.
So there's that dance sequence, then there's another dance sequence that leads into the final fight.
I don't want to talk about this one.
But isn't the dance he goes to find refuge with the Kumquat tribe, and that's how he ends up participating in the dance sequence as the eagle, having worn, this will be the second animal head that he's worn in this movie. The first being a moose head gag, where we get that for roughly 90 seconds too much. And again, if you just cut that scene from the movie, the weird eagle dance sequence, we still could have gotten to the end without losing
in a faster
anything.
pace.
At a faster pace, yeah.
And this tribe, all their dance sequences, if you guys notice, are centered around the worship of corn.
Yeah, because it's the corn festival or something they're going to celebrate.
Like that. I don't know. But there's one like
It's like
Native
a bunch
American
of white
character.
writers in a room. They're like, "What are they dancing about? I don't know, corn or something."
I hate this movie.
Stuart is in the multiverse of madness right now.
I am. See, I remember when you had you were last on this podcast and you had a great movie to talk about.
Arguably the greatest movie of all time.
Right. And now, how did you get on this movie?
So, well,
We should have done this at the beginning of the show, but
Jeff sends me this email. Jeff and I, who haven't talked since I was on the Swordfish episode, sends me an email and he says, or a text, and he's like, "Hey,
Fraser.
Travolting's done. We're on to Fraser's Edge, a name I would forget." And remember, right as we started to record this podcast, and he says, "We're just taking a poll, see who wants to do what." And I saw Dudley Do-Right, and I was like, "Yeah, that's the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie that I liked as a kid. I want to talk about that." And then I proceeded to not watch the movie over the course. I mean, it must have been 6 or 7 months ago. You texted me. Then Jeff texted me 2 weeks ago, and he says, "Are you free on the 22nd?" And I tell myself, in these next 2 weeks, I'm going to watch Dudley Do-Right. and these next 2 weeks becomes last night at 7 p.m. when I'm like, I have to fucking watch this movie, otherwise I'm not going to do it. And that is when I realized my mistake. But this was not the movie I remembered as a child. But in fact, a much, much worse movie than I could have anticipated. I went to rent it on Apple, and I saw it had a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I had no choice. I had to commit. It was too late to back out. It was too late to not watch the movie. And here we are.
Talking about Dudley
Talking about it the next day. I've forgotten half the scenes that we've talked about.
They do have... This is around the time when the narrator's just like, and this is when Dudley became Studley.
Yes.
And I just wanted to really send you over the edge with that reminder.
that I would call that the turning point. The beginning of Act 3, really.
Yeah.
He crosses his point of no return and becomes Dudley Do-Wrong.
But this is when Snidely gets informed that Dudley is taking refuge at the Kumquat tribe.
Yes.
So he launches a full-scale, substantial invasion.
What I wrote in my notes was he launches a robust aquatic assault.
These are like war boats with machine guns mounted on them. And it's like an army coming at this tribe on like a lake. And then,
D-Day style invention. Invasion. Ripped straight from the work of Steven Spielberg.
Yes. And like Dudley Do-Wrong, the general as he is, goes to the chief and is like, do we have any weapons here? It's like, we're a theater production. What the fuck do you mean? And he's like, wait, do you have fireworks?
Yeah.
And so they start their defenses by launching fireworks at Snidely's forces.
So I want to give this movie a small sprinkling of credit. The effects work in the last 15 minutes or so. Actually pretty cool.
It's
the
clear-
effects and stunt work is well done.
It's a clear majority of the money went into the final 10-minute fight sequence.
Yeah.
Which begs the question why this movie ends with a fight sequence.
An unprecedented one. One that we had just never thought about happening in a children's movie.
And like I've not seen much Dudley Do-Right cartoon, but I don't think many of them end with like a D-Day invasion.
Because then the fireworks don't work. They still get to like the tribe, and the tribe retreats. They go up this hill, and so what do? They start throwing rocks at them. And so they're throwing rocks. Like, we need bigger rocks. So they roll these Indiana Jones style boulders
huge
at the
boulders,
immovable
boulders, except by glacial power, and yet somehow they push them down the hill.
They're just like knocking out the guys.
And that's when we get the line. It's like, why? How are they getting all these big rocks? All we have are these machine guns.
I finished up my notes. I have no more notes.
So then the army gets up the hill and they're running across the plains, and it's like, we need more firepower. And then that's when, like in Saving Private Ryan, when they're taking shelter in the town, ready to defend the bridge, and you hear the wheels turning. And it's the Panther tanks. Cut back to this movie. The wheels are turning. We look and we see 2 World War II style tanks rolling at them with troops on both sides.
See, the imagery that I got is from the amazing David Ayer movie, Fury, during that King Tiger tank sequence where they have to fight it.
It is basically the same scene.
Almost identical.
Oddly enough, he's not wrong.
In terms of actually how it plays out as well. Which can only lead me to believe that David Ayer cried when he saw that sequence and said, Brad Pitt's going to star in my rendition of this scene.
It's going to be me, Brad, and Shia.
And so they're on the run, and that's when we get the... my girlfriend said it perfectly. It's the Microsoft background.
Yes, the Windows XP background with horse standing at the top. It's the first thing I thought of.
It's like it's the Windows XP backdrop, and it's with horse photoshopped on it, and it's literally like Gandalf's Return in Two Towers of like Theoden King stands alone.
Dudley Do-Right stands alone, and the horse is like.
Brendan Fraser looks to the east on the dawn of the 7th day, and the horse blows a raspberry at him.
For the Do-Right!
For the kumquat.
And then we see horse comes over the hill and he rides down. And as he's doing that, the rest of the riders of the Rohirrim, the Mounties, emerge, except they proceed to do nothing.
They don't
the
do
rest of this
anything.
fight sequence.
What do they do?
They stand there while two tanks just absolutely miss from what is a distance of maybe 100 feet away.
Maybe.
There's a crazy effects rig in this scene, though.
That's
when
the
he's
thing.
on the horse.
Yeah, so
and the
Do-Right-
tanks just...
Dudley gets on the horse and like it's absolutely a stunt double, but like starts going full charge at the tanks.
Yeah.
Tanks are firing their like shells.
Folks, this is a kid's movie based on Dudley Do-Right.
We are not lying when we say
It sounds like we're talking about 1917, but in fact, it is Dudley Do-Right. There is dirt exploding everywhere. The camera is tight on Brendan Fraser as he and horse barrel towards these tanks, and there are just explosions of dirt all over the place.
And they're like missing the horse. Like, it doesn't look like a composite. It looks like just really intense effects and stunt work.
Yeah.
The horse is like riding the like feet away from it.
Yeah.
Horse then takes a shell almost straight to the body, explodes, but doesn't. And then him and Brendan Fraser get up, not a speck of dirt on their bodies, despite being surrounded by it for this 100-meter dash.
Yeah.
And then
He sprints at the tank.
And this is like verbatim Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
Return of the King, as the Rohirrim charge against the Mordor forces to defend Minas Tirith. And like, Dad! So he runs at the tanks. The tanks are like rotating their guns further inward as he gets closer until he does the classic move. As
could have seen this coming?
General Patton had done in the African front, where he runs in between the tanks now aiming at each other. And rather than looking through like the portholes to see, oh, we're aiming at each other, no, they just launch the fucking shells and blow up both tanks with Snidely inside.
marking the second time Snidely will face a life-threatening scenario.
He's in an exploding tank.
And emerge.
Homer is too.
And emerge slightly dusty from the other side.
What is this movie?
So they explode, and then they Snidely and Homer get arrested by the Mounties.
And then you get to the end, and you just sort of wonder, what was the filmmaker trying to tell me? And
What was the intent here?
I think it turns out nothing. Because we gain nothing at the end of the film. It's just your classic.
You got to be a bad boy to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
And then he becomes a good guy again, and he gets the girl who's like, I guess I like good guys. You're like, that was what this was all for? That?
He gets his uniform back, his hat back,
His horse back.
his
girl back.
his girl, and then the
four essential food groups.
and the movie just ends with your classic.
I'm calling you.
You know, she pulls the shade down on their makeout sesh because it's a kids movie,
Yeah.
and then we cut to the horse, and just like the
farts.
Looney Tunes, the little circle closes in on him, and all we're left with is his snout, and he blows a raspberry just one more time for good measure. And then the snout disappears and the credits roll.
That's fucking Dudley Do-Right.
More like Dudley no good.
We didn't talk about the Evel Knievel scene, though. When he, on the dirt bike, drives over the Grand Canyon.
The Canadian Grand
He just
Canyon.
drives straight off the edge of the cliff and is somehow lifted into the air over the course of... And gravity has no effect on him.
It's sheer Canadian Mountie power.
Over the course of several hundred feet and lands on the other side. And right before this, he successfully knocks down a guy by blowing water all over him using the rear tire of his dirt bike.
Yeah.
Greatest stunt performer of all time.
Mm-hmm. What a movie.
I want to say that I was glad to revisit my past and revisit something that I loved as a child.
Are you?
But unlike Swordfish, this movie just does not hold up.
No.
This I would say this doesn't just not hold up. It just that doesn't work.
I don't think it worked in 99. Evidently it didn't.
Jeff, I'm
considering
very
its
shocked
ratings.
because I watched this movie and I texted you last night and I'm like, have you seen Do-Right yet? And he's like, no, I'm waiting for tomorrow morning. And I said, it might be the best movie you've ever
Stuart, this is
seen.
one of those movies that I did not enjoy the process of watching, but I'm going to enjoy talking about for years to come. Like, I'm just going to be talking to people, and I'm like, this is a Dudley Do-Right movie that ends with a World War II sequence.
The real treasure of Dudley Do-Right are the friends we made along the way.
It's this conversation we were able to have today. Do we want to know what happened after this movie came out?
Yes.
This crisp 77-minute masterpiece. It's released by Universal on August 27th, 1999. 1999, notably one of the great years for movies. Brendan's on a hot streak. The Mummy had just come out. Massive success. Also in theaters, knocking it back. The Matrix was a big hit this year. The Phantom Menace is still controlling the charts. You got, movies like Fight Club coming up. Good year.
Austin Powers.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
I knew that would get that reaction.
You knew it. And then this little movie comes out. A described box office bomb. It makes $3 million in its opening weekend. Number 11. Can't even crack the top 10. Goes on to gross $9 million domestic.
Oh my God.
9.9 million.
Still not half of its budget.
Yes, a $22 million budget. Comes out to absolute disastrous reviews. Currently has a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. Gets a C+ cinema score.
C+.
That would keep you on the football team.
That for cinema score, anything below an A- is bad. It's inexplicably bad. Cinema, like, they'll be like, yeah, the new Marvel movie got a B+ cinema score. Not gonna do so well. And I'm like, B+? And like, yeah, everyone comes out of cinema score and gives things an A.
It's really hard for me to imagine. When did this movie come out in 99?
August 27th.
It's really hard to imagine. I don't know when The Matrix come out, but it's really hard for me to see a world where The Matrix has just hit theaters, Fight Club has just hit theaters, and Universal decides this is the correct market to release this movie. Maybe they were riding off the success of Saving Private Ryan from a year ago, hoping that their fight sequence in the end could bring us back to the opening sequence of that. But
here are the top 5 box office movies in the year 1999 that made billions more than Dudley Do-Right. Number 1 was Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace. Number 2 was The Sixth Sense. Number 3 was Toy Story 2. Number 4 was The Matrix. Number 5 was Tarzan. And then number 6 was The Mummy. Just worthy of noting.
So Brendan Fraser is commanding
okay.
2 of the top 10 spots
Yeah, so Dudley
of 99.
clearly making billions on the back end. But no, this movie is, thankfully for him, quickly forgotten.
Yeah.
Doesn't make an impact.
We don't forget.
He is able to make it out of this basically scot-free. Because everyone's like, the Mummy was so fun. Yeah, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. People are cheering in the stands.
Of the Coliseum.
Yeah, Coliseum. They're showing the Mummy in the middle, but like if you're like sitting in front of it, if you're on one of the sides, you only hear it. Trying to think if there's anything remotely interesting about this movie post-release.
What are Brendan Fraser's gripes with this movie?
He was just unhappy with the final result of the film and with the film's deviations from the Dudley Do-Right show.
Gotcha.
Which, as we all know, Fraser being a very Hellbent fan of.
Yeah. Fraser specifically said he was very opposed to the idea. I don't know if he was a fan, but he cared deeply about the character in production.
Gotcha.
And he was mad that Dudley had to break the law to defeat Whiplash. Because he's like, Dudley should stick within the bounds of the law.
Yeah.
For the entire structure of this show. Or for this movie.
I mean, that's a reasonable complaint, I think.
So you can kind of see Fraser checking out halfway through this movie, I feel like. Like, he's just like, whatever. The Mummy is coming out. I'm going to be fine.
He just showed up, delivered some lines, fell out of a chair, got hit in the head with some planks of wood.
I feel like Alfred Molina was the one who liked the taste of the sandwich he was eating the most.
Yeah, he was bathing in the river of ham.
He really was.
Yeah, he was
soaking in it.
He was having a nice
marinating in it.
Nice bite of a honey roast ham
with some mustard on it. A little sourdough bread.
you can almost see his genius then represented again in Spider-Man 2
Yeah.
as Doc Ock.
Yeah.
Almost identical
What if he had
character.
done this voice in Spider-Man 2?
What if he had
If
done
he's
this
like,
voice in
"Hello,
Spider-Man
Peter."
2 and the Doc Ock voice in Dudley Do-Right?
Hello, Dudley. Hello, Peter. And then like when No Way Home comes out, he has to commit to the voice
He has
again.
to do it again.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand. See.
My rose is dead. My dream is dead.
And these monstrous things
Things.
should be at the bottom of the
Let's,
river. With me!
With the mustache. With the mustache.
With the mustache.
Yeah. You have to include the mustache.
Otto Octavius.
Yeah.
What a fucking guy. What a good guy.
What a great role.
What a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care about his role. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He did some bad things. He made some mistakes.
He had a dream, and he had a love. And I think it just,
He wanted to, create sustainable energy 15 years before anyone else in this country gave a rat's ass about sustainable energy.
yeah.
We just had a big fusion breakthrough,
Did we?
We did, yeah.
American scientists just made a big fusion breakthrough recently, and I think, Otto Octavius should get some credit for that.
I didn't know about this.
Died
This
15
was
years.
About 3 months ago. And they're saying fusion now is actually 20 years away.
Oh,
Because it's been 20 years away since the 1940s.
Yeah.
right.
But they made the breakthrough where they're like, okay, we can actually start.
They actually generated more energy than they put in
Oh, okay.
for the first time.
Wow. Neato.
Yeah. They just had to, secure the precious tritium.
Yeah. That only Oscorp could provide.
Yeah. For some reason,
Happy to do it, Otto.
the weird thing is that they did find the tritium in James Franco's apartment.
He stole the tritium prop, but it was made of actual tritium.
Like Biden had to sign off. They had to send FBI guys to James Franco's house because he was hoarding all the tritium.
Speaking of fake materials, though, the true saving grace of Avatar 2 was that nobody ever said the word
Unobtainium.
They had what do they call it?
Whale brain juice?
The whale brain juice, and
Yeah.
they call it ambrosia. I think it's like ambrosia. Or
Oh, do they
something.
really?
They call something like that.
I thought it was forever. Forever.
I fucking hope not.
Sucks for them because this thing it just like stops human aging, like stops it. If you're gonna get out of it, get into it. I love that fucking guy in that movie, the Australian. He's gonna be back in the next one. He's gonna have like a harpoon arm. It's gonna be great.
Dude, that was so good.
I can't wait for Avatar.
Who's got the harpoon now?
the fucking whale?
I've solely seen that movie one time.
That's enough.
I've seen it.
I will
4
never
times.
see it again.
Seeing it a 5th time on Saturday because people keep asking to see it with me, and I cannot say no because I do actually. Want
You
to
keep
see
seeing it in 3D though, right?
it. 3D Dolby high frame rate.
Fuck. I felt like in that opening sequence when they're being shot at by the Marines, it felt like there was a little man behind my chair with 2 hammers just going like this on the back of it, just fucking beating the I mean, I was vibrating in that theater.
I was vibrating that theater, but for other reasons.
Jeff. All right.
All right,
I think it's time to close this out.
any final thoughts on Dudley Do-Right?
No.
Do you think we got it?
I barely had any like originating thoughts on Dudley Do-Right. I still am not really sure what I watched last night. The plot really only became evident to me during the invasion sequence after he steals the gold, when I was like, oh, okay,
This is what we're doing.
this is what we're doing. Yeah. And they do. I mean, there's even a narrator to spell it out for you,
Yeah.
and the movie is still terribly confusing.
Yes. All right, folks. Well, with that in mind, thank you so much for listening to our episode on Dudley Do-Right. We hope you do right, and make sure to like, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. As a reminder, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Pop to our Reddit, r/Travolting. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram at TravoltingPod. You can find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney. Stuart, anything you want to plug?
Nope.
Sam, anything you want to plug?
No, but I was just on the r/Travolting subreddit a couple days ago, and it's a little quiet there.
Yeah, there has not been a post since, I think, 2021.
Yeah.
I still plug it every time and hope someone will do something. But it's a fool's gold situation.
Maybe we should plant it with fake accounts like
Should I just-
Snidely Whiplash
Yes,
did.
Snidely fan.
Snidely
2020.
Whiplash did no
And
wrong.
A semi-good valley. Bring in the tourist.
But yes, and finally, special thanks as always to Rebecca Johnson for our graphic design and Michael Van Bodegum Smith for the theme music that's taking you out, and Ange Gardner for our social media.
Wait, he did the theme music?
Yeah,
I did not know that. That dude's so talented.
he's the best guy.
That's
He does our
hilarious.
theme.
What the fuck? He's like out in LA, like being super successful right now.
and he still does our music.
he still does
He
new
does
music.
he does new renditions for all our new.
Are you
like,
fucking serious?
Yeah.
Dude, that's
He
hilarious.
just did our Christmas music like 3 weeks ago.
That's amazing. I had no idea this whole time.
Yeah. He's been on the show. He was on Gotti and what's the other one he was on?
Michael.
He's on Michael because his name is Michael.
I think those are the 2 episodes that I didn't listen to, so I just, happened to miss that.
I'm still recording.
Yes, well, of course. This has to go in. But yes, thank you, folks, and see you next week for our episode on. Oh my goodness, I am slacking so hard right now.
Wow, Jeopardy.
This is just our episode on Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mists. A logical follow-up to Dudley Do-Right.
with Brian DeLisi.
Yes, with Brian DeLeeson.
It's gonna be great, folks.
Have a great week, folks.
See ya.